Okay, I want you to take a listen and tell me if this is you. Your sleep score, if you track it, is in the toilet. And you wake up every morning feeling exhausted. You're tired all day, but as soon as your head hits the pillow, it's like everything that you forgot to think about for the entire day suddenly comes rushing to the forefront. So you lie there awake for hours, trying to get yourself to sleep, and by the time you actually do, it feels like you barely drift off before your alarm starts going off. And so you snooze your alarm a million times, and by the time you actually peel yourself out of bed, it feels like you've been hit by a freight train. If that sounds like you, then you've come to the right place. I have looked through information from the experts. I'm talking Dr. Andrew Huberman, Dr. Matthew Walker, Dr. Michael Breus, Arianna Huffington, and I've put together a simple toolkit of things that you can do to improve your sleep. Now, I'm not going to be talking about supplements or sleeping pills or anything like that today. The goal of this is for these to be simple, easy to implement tools that you can do at home to get a better night's sleep. Okay? Let's get into this.
Welcome to the Mindset Gym podcast, where we exercise your way of thinking to help unlock your hidden potential. I'm your host, Emily Irwin, a registered nurse and holistic nutritionist with a passion for all things health, fitness, and personal development. All right, let's get into it.
Hi guys, welcome back to the Mindset Gym podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in. We are diving into your sleep toolkit today. I have poured through the research and I have put together a list of really simple to implement tools that you can put into practice literally tonight to get a better night's sleep. And I did this partially to put together the episode for you guys, but also just for my own benefit. I have been going through this type of research for a very long time now because I found for myself getting a good night's sleep has become something that I have to be much more intentional about the older that I get. I think a lot of us can probably relate to our younger years. Sleep was just kind of a given. You just kind of hit the pillow whenever and you're asleep and that's that. And it's not really something that you have to think about. But the older we get, the harder that can become. And it does require you to take really intentional steps to actually get a good night's sleep. Because if you don't, you're paying for it the next day. I know you are. So let's stop doing that. Let's put some really simple tools into place so that we can get a better night's sleep. Now, like I said in the introduction, I'm not talking about any sort of sleeping pills or supplements or anything like that today. If you are someone who puts all these tools into practice and you're still having a really hard time and you think that you may need something like medication for sleep or supplements to help you with sleep, or if you have a diagnosed sleep disorder that you need more in-depth help with, talk to a professional about this. We're just friends talking for education purposes, okay? I'm not your doctor. I'm not a doctor, period. So please talk to a professional if those are things that you think you need. But I can give you the simple tools to start. And the first thing I want to talk about before I get into the actual list is a mindset shift that I want you to implement that's going to make a really big difference in the way that you approach your sleep. And that is seeing good quality sleep as a necessity. Stop treating it as something that is optional. This is something Arianna Huffington talked about a lot that I think we all see, and it is toting lack of sleep as this kind of badge of honor of the, I'll sleep when I'm dead mindset, or like, oh, I've only had 4 hours of sleep however many nights in a row, or I'm surviving on coffee, yada, yada, yada. That is not a thing to brag about. That is not a badge of honor. That doesn't make you better or more valuable because you've gotten shit or no sleep. I think we tend to equate people who are getting really poor sleep or getting really little sleep with people who are more busy or more productive, and then we somehow tie that into the fact that, oh, they're getting very little sleep, they must be very important. And that's not always accurate. That's not always true. It's not really a flex to not be getting good quality sleep because it will eventually catch up to you. And whatever it is you're trying to accomplish in your day-to-day life, whatever work you're trying to do, whatever your job is, whatever, family you're trying to take care of, whatever it is, your ability to show up and do that is going to suffer as a result of you getting consistently bad sleep. So it's not something to brag about. And I think this is the mindset shift that we need to have in order to start taking steps to improve it. is stop treating bad sleep like it's a badge of honor. If you are in circumstances where you're getting really bad sleep consistently and it's really hard for you to have a good routine in place, that's really difficult. That's really hard. That's something that I think needs your attention and I think needs productive steps to work on fixing. It's not something that you need to have to make you worthy. So let's get into this list. Let's get into the really simple things that you can do to fix your sleep. And the first one is keeping your room really fucking dark. Like really, really fucking dark. And the reason for this is because your body being exposed to darkness is what prompts melatonin production in the evenings and what tells your body it is time for sleep. And this is something that I have known for a very long time, but I think I underestimated just how dark. And I think some of us may be doing the same thing because you may have the lights off, you may have the blackout curtains, just like I did, you may have all the things, but there might be lights in your room that are creating just enough light to fuck up your sleep that you may not be realizing. And I'll tell you an example from my own life because I didn't realize how much this was fucking up my sleep. So I wear a Garmin when I sleep. I don't have it on right now because it's charging, but I wear it when I sleep. And so I get a sleep score and I get a breakdown of how my sleep was the night before. And something I had been noticing for a very long time, we have a fan in our bedroom and there's a little window on that fan that just says the temperature of the room, but it creates a small amount of light. And I noticed it sometimes when I was trying to fall asleep. It was kind of this thing in the back of my mind that was like, maybe I should do something about that. And eventually I did. I just took a little piece of like black electrical tape and just covered up that little light. So our room was a little bit darker. And it had a substantial impact on my sleep score. I was actually getting really noticeably better sleep just from that little thing. So this is why I wanted to include this in the list, because I think it's a very obvious thing that we need to have our rooms dark. But I think we often forget little things. Like if you have an Xbox or a PlayStation or a computer or something in your room that has a little light on it that is giving some amount of light off, find a way to cover it. And it can just be doing what I did, taking a little strip of electrical tape and just covering it up. Just make it your goal to make your room as dark as possible. And a second note to this, if you are someone who has your phone next to your bed, either keeping it on Do Not Disturb so it's not lighting up and making noise overnight, or putting it face down so that when someone texts you or you get a notification from an app, your phone screen is not lighting up and lighting up your entire bedroom. Okay? Keep your room dark. The second one is limit screen time and fluid intake right before bed. I'll break down both. So the screen time, the first one. This is more specific to your phone and social media. And the reason for this, and this is something Dr. Matthew Walker actually talked about a little bit, is there's been a lot of research about like blue light and things like that right before bed and how limiting screen time period is important. And it is. If you're able to eliminate all screen time altogether, it will make a really positive impact on your sleep. But there is actually a hierarchy of how these things are impacting your sleep and the overall negative impact that they're going to have. You watching kind of an innocuous, low-stress show on TV before bed is actually going to have much less of an impact than you scrolling on social media or checking your work email or texting a bunch of people back. And the reason for that is not the light. It's not the light from the screen necessarily, it's the stress response that you've created. Because you lying down and watching TV or something before bed, a show that, is pretty low stress, pretty low stakes, nothing crazy. Maybe don't watch like murder mystery shows right before bed, but something low stress, something lighthearted. That doesn't create the stress response that you're going to have from scrolling through social media or answering work emails right before bed, because when you prompt that stress response, your cortisol spikes and it's really hard for you to then settle down and fall asleep. So I would say at least 30, better if you do 60 minutes before bed. Don't do any of these high stress screen time activities. And the fluid intake one, don't drink a ton of fluid right before bed. And I think this is just an obvious one because you're going to be up peeing all night. I don't know about you guys, but I have the bladder of a goldfish. So if I'm drinking a ton of fluid right before bed, I am not sleeping at all. So try to cut off your fluid intake a couple of hours before you have to go to bed. And something I like to do in order to make sure that I'm getting enough fluid throughout the day while still being able to accomplish this is as soon as I wake up in the morning, I drink a liter of water before anything else. Before I have my morning coffee, before I have my breakfast, I get a liter of fluid out of the way right out of the gate so that I can get on top of my fluid intake early and get through what I need to get through long before I need to be in bed. How you set up your morning routine is going to have a direct downstream impact on your ability to get to sleep that night and what your nighttime routine looks like. And you'll see that with some of the other things that we're going to talk about from this list, that it's not just habits I want you to implement right before bed. Some of them are habits I want you to implement first thing in the morning, because that's how you set the tone. That's how you get the ball rolling to have this good routine going to bed and how you're going to facilitate your ability to fall asleep that evening. The third one that I want you to do is keep a consistent sleep and wake time. This is also something Dr. Matthew Walker talked about, is having a consistent time that you go to bed every night, plus or minus 15 minutes, and a consistent time that you wake up every morning. Whether you are working, whether you are off, it doesn't matter. Try to keep as much consistency as you can over the course of your week. And he actually broke this down into the research of how this impacts your overall health, because he has a system that he breaks down in terms of different sleep metrics and how it impacts your overall health. He talks about them as the QQRT principles, and these are quantity, quality, regularity, and timing. He breaks down how each of these individual factors impacts your overall health. And you would think that quality and quantity were two of the biggest heavy hitters. But in terms of things like all-cause mortality, it was actually regularity. The time that you go to bed and the time that you wake up. There was a study that compared people who had very regular sleep-wake times, so a variable of about 15 minutes night to night of when they went to bed and when they woke up. So let's say, for example, you go to bed at 9 o'clock one night, and then 9:15 the following night, and then maybe 8:45 the following night. Like, you've got this kind of 15-minute window, but you're going to sleep somewhere in there. Same thing with your wake-up time. Let's say you're waking up at 5:30 one morning, maybe 5:45 the following morning. There's just that kind of small window of variability. They compared these people to the people who had much less regularity, so a variable of about 90 to 120 minutes between when they would go to bed every night and wake up. And there was a 49% increase in all-cause mortality for the people who had a 90 to 120 minute variability in when they went to sleep. A 49% increase in all-cause mortality. That means anything dying of any cause, your risk went up by 49% just by having really irregular sleep times. And so these are the people that, go to sleep at 11 o'clock one night, and then the next night it's 1 a.m., and then it's 9 p.m. the next night, and it's all over the board. There's no consistency with when they're going to sleep. So try to have some semblance of regularity. And I know people will probably hear that and think, well, Emily, I have commitments some evenings, or I have kids that are not always ready for bed at the same time, or I have to be up early for this thing one day a week. And it's not always easy to have a schedule that caters to you going to bed and waking up at the exact same time every single day, but try to keep it as close as you can. We're not aiming for perfection here. We're just aiming to be a little bit better. So try and keep some semblance of regularity of when you go to sleep and when you wake up. Number 4, be mindful of what foods upset your digestion. And I want you to keep a log of them. Now, if you are someone who doesn't have any issues, nothing upsets your digestion, nothing makes you bloated, nothing causes problems, great, amazing. I think we all wish we were you. But if you are, like most people probably are, be aware of what those things are that upset your digestion, even if it's in a really minor way. And just keep a log of them. I'm not saying you have to cut them out of your diet. You don't have to be super restrictive. Unless it causes a really major problem, then maybe look into doing that. But things that upset your digestion, try to avoid eating them in the evenings. The reason for this is because, I think it's very obvious, if they fuck up your digestion and you eat them right before bed, your fucked up digestion is going to wake you up. So just be mindful of when you're eating these things during the day. You don't necessarily have to cut them out completely, but just be a little careful of what you eat right before bed, because you having really smooth, problem-free digestion overnight is going to make it a lot easier for you to sleep. And you can even take steps to improve this before bed. So maybe drinking things like lemon and ginger tea right before you go to bed, just so everything is kind of running smoothly and you're not woken up with any sort of distress. Number 5, bright light as soon as you wake up. This is something I heard talked about from Dr. Huberman, is exposing yourself to really bright light as soon as you wake up. Now, ideally, you would accomplish this by going outside and spending some time in sunlight. But if you are in a part of the world that doesn't get a whole lot of sunlight, or if you're waking up at 4 a.m. and it's still dark outside, there are other ways that you can accomplish this, not to the same efficacy, but still to some degree of efficacy. So if let's say you're waking up at 4 a.m. and it's still dark outside, turn on as many lights as you can in your house. Make the environment really bright. And the reason for this is kind of similar to why we want to keep our room dark in the evenings, is because a dark environment tells your body it's time to go to sleep. And in contrast, a really light environment tells your body it's time to wake up, it's time to get the ball rolling for the day. And you getting that bright light as soon as you wake up, it increases your body's cortisol and it's going to wake you up and it's going to set in motion a kind of internal timer for when it's time to go to sleep later that night. So this is one of those things that you implementing it first thing in the morning is actually going to make it easier for you to fall asleep later on that day, because you've set the ball in motion right when you woke up. And if you are able to get outside and get some bright light in your eyes from being outside, the general guidelines that Dr. Huberman has discussed is around 5 minutes if it's a sunny day, around 10 minutes if it's overcast, and around 20 minutes if it's rainy or dark outside. And this really is the most effective if you actually go outside and actually get the light on your face. This is not going to be as effective if you're trying to get the light through the window of your house or through the window of your car. It will not have the same effect. Number 6 is increase your core body temperature first thing in the morning. And again, the reason that we do this is because it releases epinephrine or adrenaline and starts that kind of wake up cascade that is going to cater to you having an easier time falling asleep later in the evening. You increasing your core body temperature first thing in the morning also releases dopamine, so it's going to help improve things like focus and motivation going into the rest of your day. And there's a couple ways that you can accomplish this. You can increase your core body temperature by exercising first thing in the morning, or by deliberate cold exposure, so doing things like a cold plunge or a cold shower will increase your core body temperature and help set that cascade in motion. And you can stack some of these habits as well. So if you're trying to implement bright light first thing in the morning and some sort of activity, maybe you go for a walk first thing in the morning. So you're getting that sunlight and you're getting that exercise. And the opposite thing can be true as well, is taking steps to lower your core body temperature right before bed. So taking a hot bath right before you go to bed, or turning on a fan, having your thermostat set so it goes down a couple degrees right before bed. Things that are going to lower your core body temperature in the evenings are going to tell your body that it is time to prepare for bed. You might be hearing me say, take a cold shower in the morning and take a hot bath at night, and it may sound kind of counterintuitive because you're probably thinking, Emily, if I have a cold shower, I'm going to be freezing cold. I'm not increasing my core body temperature. But you are. Because your body is going to react in opposition to what is happening outside of you. If you're exposing yourself to really cold temperatures, your body is going to try and compensate by raising its core body temperature. Same thing in contrast, if you expose yourself to really warm temperatures by doing things like taking a hot bath, your body is going to compensate by lowering your core body temperature. The next one. Wait 90 to 120 minutes after waking up before consuming caffeine. The reason for this is because throughout the day, as you go through your day and you go through your activities, adenosine is building up in your body. Adenosine is a naturally occurring chemical in your body that helps regulate things like sleep, energy, and brain activity. And throughout the day, it builds up in your system until you get to a threshold that says, okay, it's time to go to sleep. And as you sleep, your body starts to clear adenosine out of your system. And when you first wake up in the morning, there is still kind of a 90 to 120 minute window where your body is finishing up that process. And caffeine works by blocking adenosine activity. And so when we drink it, it blocks the buildup of adenosine, which can help slow down those feelings of fatigue and tiredness that you feel. But it can also stop the process of the adenosine being cleared from your body early in the morning. So if you wake up first thing in the morning and you immediately start drinking coffee, Any adenosine that's still kind of in your system is going to linger around. And so as soon as that caffeine wears off, anything that was still left in your system that never got cleared early in the morning is going to hit you like a ton of bricks. And this is where you get that kind of early afternoon crash. And then you're turning to coffee again, and the cycle repeats. So wait 90 to 120 minutes before you drink your coffee. The other reason for this is because when you start consuming caffeine, it's also going to spike your cortisol. And your body is naturally spiking your cortisol first thing in the morning in order to wake you up. So if you dump caffeine on top of that and make that spike more dramatic, you're going to lead to things like feelings of anxiety really early in the morning. And again, these all feed together. You taking the time to wait before you have your morning coffee is going to make it easier down the line for you to fall asleep later that evening. So they all feed into each other. The next one is create a nighttime ritual. And this is one I got from Arianna Huffington, and she talks about the notion that if you have children, you know that you can't just pick them up from whatever they're doing in their day and stick them in bed and expect them to sleep. They have to have some sort of nighttime wind down ritual routine. You give them a bath, you put them in pajamas, you read them a story. There's kind of a runway to bedtime. And you create this ritual so that when you start putting these activities in motion, your brain's familiar with them. Your brain knows to associate, hey, when I start doing X, Y, and Z, that means bedtime is coming up. That means I need to start preparing for bed. The same thing applies to adults. You need to have some sort of consistent routine that tells your body, hey, it's wind down time, it's time to get ready for bed. And this could look very similar to a child's nighttime routine. You could have a bath, put some nice pajamas on, dim the lights, read a story, right? It can be very similar. It doesn't even have to be anything dramatically different. Just find some sort of consistent ritual that you can stick to before bed. It'll make it a little bit easier for your brain to start preparing to go to sleep. Number 9, if you are someone who wakes up in the middle of the night, don't check your clock. You checking your clock in the middle of the night when you wake up is going to make it harder for you to fall back asleep. Because typically what's going to happen if you look at the clock, you're going to start thinking things like, oh, let's say it's 3 a.m. Oh, it's 3 a.m. I only have this many hours left before I have to wake up. Or, oh, my alarm's going to go off in such and such time. And then you start stressing about how much sleep you are or are not going to get. And it becomes a lot harder for you to actually get back to sleep. So put steps in place to make it so that if you were to wake up in the middle of the night, you don't see what time it is. So maybe having your alarm clock facing a different direction. Like I said before, having your phone face down. Just anything to kind of keep it a mystery so that it's easier for you to go back to sleep without worrying about what time it is or how much sleep you are or not going to get. The next one, figure out your wake-up time and get into bed 9 to 10 hours prior. Now, I'm not suggesting that you need 9 to 10 hours of sleep, but typically, the generally accepted guidelines of how much sleep you should be getting is 7 to 9 hours. And I don't know about you, but myself for sure, and I'm sure most people out there, we don't just hit the pillow and immediately fall asleep. It takes time. It takes time for you to actually get to sleep once you get into bed. So give yourself that runway. Don't get into bed. Let's say if you're planning on sleeping 8 hours, don't get into bed 8 hours before you need to wake up. Get into bed 9 hours ahead of time so you've got that runway. You've got that time so that when you actually do fall asleep, you still have the 8-hour window. The last one, and this is something that you can implement either before you go to sleep or as a practice in the middle of the night if you wake up and you're having trouble falling back asleep. And this is implementing something like a meditation or body scan. And this is a good way to help calm your system down, relax yourself, and kind of quiet your brain so you can get back to sleep. You could do things like box breathing, you could do a body scan meditation, you could, download one of the apps that have guided meditations, put your headphones on and kind of do that. It will give you this nice, mellow, wind down ritual that will help get you back to sleep. And something that Dr. Matt Walker actually talks about is if you wake up in the middle of the night, don't count sheep. Because this actually stresses you out more because you start to count sheep and you start, associating how many numbers you've counted with how much time you're not getting sleep and how much sleep you're missing out on before your alarm goes off. And it becomes this thing that actually triggers more stress than it does promote sleep. So don't count sheep if you wake up in the middle of the night. Try doing something like a meditation or body scan instead. Okay? That's what I got for you. These are not crazy, they're not expensive, they don't require a prescription. These are just simple tools that you can implement in your home this evening that are going to make it a little bit easier for you to get a good night's sleep. Put them into practice and see how you feel. And let me know in the comments if you try one out that works really well for you or you're noticing a difference in your sleep quality. Let me know. I would love to know how these are actually working out for you, because these are a lot of things that I have put into practice for myself and I found them wildly beneficial. And the proof is in the numbers, right? Like I said at the beginning of the episode, I track my sleep every night with my watch and the improvement has been substantial. So, see how you feel. Hopefully these will help you guys get a much better sleep consistently the way that they have for me. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you later this week.
Hey, thanks for listening to the show. If you like the episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a review, or share the show with a friend. Your support helps the show reach even more incredible people just like you. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time at the Mindset Gym.